Hi, it's MJ, and welcome to Key to the Keys, a podcast that explores the stories of local residents who have made the islands of the Florida Keys their home. Each week, I'll be sitting down with local business owners and community members who will share their personal journeys of relocating to this stunning destination and offer their unique perspective on what it truly means to live, work, and thrive here in the Florida Keys. So whether you're considering a move, looking to start a business here in the community, or simply curious about life in this tropical paradise, my hope is that these stories will inspire you to take that bold leap of faith and live the life you want. I am so excited to introduce you all to today's guest for the podcast. Get ready for an episode bursting with island energy and southern hospitality. Cari Sanders, an Upper Keys local, is a Louisiana native who's brought her infectious enthusiasm and incredible work ethic to the Florida Keys. She not only owns and operates a thriving local print shop with her partner Daniel, but she also whips up some amazing scones for guests at a charming local resort, and if that wasn't enough, she's deeply involved in multiple community initiatives. Cari has embraced Keys life wholeheartedly since day one, and her passion for this island community is truly contagious. Prepare for a fun, fast-paced conversation filled with joy, inspiration, and some great Florida Keys insider tips. Cari.
Hi, Megan. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for coming up to my shop.
Thank you so much for having me and sitting down with me today to talk about your relocation story.
Yeah.
And also just personal insight as to what it's like living here in the Keys and running a business here in the Keys.
Absolutely. If you know me, I'm a yapper and I love to talk about living down here and all things Florida Keys and our business. So
I love it.
Perfect.
And I'm excited for our conversation. And you and your partner Daniel, you do business together, you do life together, and I just can say that this community is truly more abundant with you all in it.
Oh, thank you a lot. We really love it here.
Yeah, and it shows. I mean, not only does your printing business provide such fantastic services for the local people, the local businesses, but you personally, your commitment and your dedication to organizations here in the community just truly shine a light on how much you love it here, the way of life here, and just protecting the beauty of these islands that just make it so special and unique. So.
Thank you so much. I hope, if nothing else, at the very least, I can encourage somebody else to get involved, whether it's their Florida Keys community or the community wherever they're at.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's dive into the conversation.
All right, let's go.
I first would love for you to personally introduce yourself to the listeners. Your name, your business, where you're located in the Keys, how long you've been in the Keys, and then we'll slide right into you telling your story of how you, a young couple, you and Daniel, moved from Louisiana to the Florida Keys and running a printing shop here.
Yeah, so my name is Cari Sanders. I have been in the Keys personally since April 4th of 2019. Daniel came down a little bit ahead of me the day that they were actually closing on the house that we live in the little historic district of Tavernier. That was the day Hurricane Irma came through the Florida Keys. Wow. My brother-in-law, Daniel's brother Ben, is a lieutenant for the sheriff's office now, and so he had stayed down here through the storm, and so he called up and called Daniel and his mom Kay and said, hey, the house is fine, we're good to go, everything's good. And so they came down, they signed the papers the next week, and the rest was history. We'll get into it, but at the time I had no interest in moving away from Louisiana and moving from my home, and I had a 3-bedroom, 2-bath little home. I had a career, which all worked out very serendipitously, and so I'm excited to talk about it. But our shop is Vital Signs. Daniel has actually worked at Vital Signs since 2017 when the previous owners had it. Okay. However, in 2020, their life circumstances changed in January. We all know COVID came to hit a couple months later, but in between those 2 months, they came to us and they said, hey, look, we're moving, we want to sell the shop, we want y'all to buy it. So Daniel came home one day from work and said, how do you feel about buying a print shop? And I was like, what else are we going to do? Yeah, sure. So we started that process, and then COVID hit. But we've owned the business. We closed in February of 2021, and I'm quite proud of what we've grown it into. And I want it to be as much of a household name, down here in the Keys, and I want more than anything, for people to know how invested that we are and how much we love it, and to encourage others to get involved in their community. One of the things that I told Daniel, I said, if we're going to buy a business, I'm going to let you know right now, I came out of the nonprofit world. That's where my heart's at. That's where I like to be boots on the ground, doing stuff. That is where my joy comes from. He said, if you'll help me build this business, I'll support you in any way. And he has. Every time he's like, what tools do I need to bring? What are we printing? Do you need help doing and doing the hermit crab walk? So he's always been super supportive, and I'm very thankful for that.
That's so great to have in a relationship, and that's so awesome.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure, especially when you spend 24 hours a day with someone. We joke and say there's work Cari and Daniel and home Cari and Daniel, and we've grown a lot as individuals now that we've had this business going on 4 years. We've grown not only as business owners. I don't actually know if you know this, but when Daniel came home and asked me if I wanted to buy the business, I Googled how to write an SBA loan, like how to write a business plan. So Google really helped us through that.
Hey, Google is a godsend. I always just say Google it.
I was like, I don't know how to do this. So I was like, I looked it up and researched it, and we figured it out. And it was a process, but it was, neither of us had owned our own businesses yet. We came from families of business owners and such, but we had never owned a business. So we're very thankful for the community that came in, and they just invited us in, and it was just never any questions, and there were so many people supporting us, and we expected to have to start really slow, but I think we hit the ground running. And then a couple of times our feet have gotten out from underneath us, and we've stopped and we've regrouped, and we saw how we probably didn't handle that well, or how we could have done better. And the most important thing is that we always grow from it. Everything's a lesson, and so we try to use all of those lessons and experiences, positive and negative, to continue to grow and be the best version of ourselves.
Yeah, it's a great way to look at it.
Yeah, for sure.
And like you said, it just keeps you growing and expanding and evolving, and it's, that's all you can do. So
yeah, absolutely.
So 2017 is when you moved down. What was that inspiration of moving here from Louisiana?
So Daniel's brother Ben is married to a woman named Kathy. Her grandparents owned a marina down here. So she had been, but they were from Louisiana themselves. So she had spent some of her childhood down here and some of her childhood in Louisiana. They met while she was in Louisiana. They decided they wanted to move down. Ben joined MCSO and has been with them for 13, 14 years at this point. Okay. Daniel's mom was going to retire, and she said, hey, I think, Daniel and I don't have any kids, and so Ben and Kathy have two, and she said, I think I'm going to retire and move to Florida. I want to be near the grandkids, So Daniel was like, cool, good luck. And then he started coming down here with her and house hunting with her, and he was like, well, maybe I should come too. And so then at that point I was like, well, good luck, But he and I stayed really good friends the entirety of the time that we were not down here together. And I came on vacation in late February into early March, and I was moved down here full time the first weekend of April.
So it was like instant, okay.
I came down here, and I can't explain it. There's just this magic in the air of the Keys. And I feel like we all talk about it, and you hear it, and you're like,
it's something that's really hard to explain in words. It truly is something you just feel it.
Yeah.
And sometimes, but that's the perfect thing. I say magic too. It's so just magical.
I think that's explain it.
That's the one perfect. I don't know. It encompasses everything.
I came down here and I was like, this really feels like home. And little did I know, Kay, Daniel's mom, had been plotting behind my back a little bit. And she took her pets to a local vet, and she said, hey, my son's girlfriend's coming down here. She might be interested in moving down here. I know y'all are hiring. So when I came down here, she was like, hey, I have a job interview for you. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll go. And funny enough, I went for the job interview. I loved the hospital. They had a spot coming open and I was like, look, I don't even know I don't even know if I'm moving here. And so then they had a spot come open about a month later, and that's actually why I moved so prematurely.
Okay.
They called me back, and they were like, look, we have this spot open if you want it. And I was like, so I called Daniel, and I was like, what do they called me again. Mm-hmm. And he was like, well, if you want to do it, what's the worst thing that happens? It doesn't work out. You go back to Louisiana, whatever. And so I decided to come down, and I started working there, and I absolutely loved it, stayed on even after I bought our business, stayed on for an extra couple of years. And they still support me in all of my crazy endeavors every time I ask them for a sponsorship or anything. But meeting them, and all of the employees at that hospital are so much like how people are in our community. They're just like, oh my God, hey, like, you know, like everybody's just, it's like you've belonged there your whole life, and they've known you your whole life. And, you know, and I think that comes with so many transient people here and so many people from different backgrounds, that I really think that we encompass that, like, we have a common goal here, and that is our islands.
And a welcoming spirit.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was your first visit ever to the Keys.
Yes.
And you're like, I love
had
it here.
only seen the ocean once ever before.
Oh my goodness.
Before I moved down, I'd only ever seen the ocean once, and it was like passing by. So it was crazy. Like I had never been out on the ocean. I had never experienced sea. I had never really been in salt water. You know, so that was all things that I got to experience.
Now you're surrounded by it.
Oh yeah, I love it.
Totally different.
Oh yeah, I love it, and I couldn't imagine it any other way. I actually got to let. My mom came down to visit one Thanksgiving, and she and I got to go, and we got to dip her feet in Harry Harris Park, and I took her to the Atlantic Ocean, and she got to put her feet in together, and we did it together, and it was the first time she'd ever been in the Atlantic Ocean. So like that was, you know, like there's a lot of opportunities for really unique experiences down here from people of all backgrounds, and so that's a universal cool experience. So
yeah. Aww.
Yeah.
Does your family get to come visit you often?
My mom comes every once in a while, every couple of years. Daniel and I go back and forth every other Christmas. Like this Christmas is my family's Christmas.
Okay.
So we'll be in Dallas at my sister's house. But my mom comes to visit occasionally. My sister doesn't travel as much. She has 2 kids, and they're volleyball, baseball, basketball, you know, so we love Carrot, and Uncle Daniel love to go see them. So that's always a nice little vacation for us. Yeah. But we had a great time. Back to the house hunting and how we ended up down here. Daniel and his mom looked at several houses. We actually live in a legal duplex. So our house was built in the 1930s, raised in the 1960s. Another house was built underneath it. So it's one unit or one house, but it's two units.
Separate, yeah.
We actually looked at, we didn't. They looked at a triplex here in Key Largo, and they were like sold. They were going to buy it because like Daniel would have his own house, Kay was going to have her own house. Then Ben and Kathy had a space with the bedrooms. You know, it was a huge place, but it wasn't a legal triplex. And so in order to sell it and insure it, it was going to have to be, you know,
converted to it. Yeah.
So those are always like when I tell, you know, because I bake at a resort here locally, and people ask me all the time, like, what is the houses or like buying land down here? That's always a very common question, you know, and I'm always like, check and see what your permits are, check and see if you can build, and check and see what the existing ones are before, and know what you're getting into.
Do your research.
Yeah, do your research.
Yeah, get local knowledge, do your research. And I tell people that all the time, being in real estate, some people think it's just the same. It's pretty much the same everywhere. Even in Florida, I feel like the Keys are just a totally different animal. And it's hard to explain that to people until they actually like are in the thick of it, you know. And
you don't realize, you know, like building and all of that goes so much into our environment. I never thought about sea life or straws, or again, I'd only seen the ocean once in my life before I moved down here. So like, why was I invested in that? And then I feel like you move down here and you're like, oh, I am seeing these problems happen. I am seeing ways that I can make change. And I feel like it really wakes people up to make a difference and see that there are things going on, and we have to preserve our community. And, you know, you have to do your research and make sure you understand what you're getting into before, and be committed to that, you know, common goal.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, I always say living here, you become very in tune with nature, whether you like it or you don't.
Yep.
You know, we live on such a small piece of land that the creatures and just nature are just so
it's everywhere.
So you have to learn to live, you know,
amongst it and not, you know, against it.
Yeah.
So I love it, and that is and it's encouraged me, you know, to be in different organizations and to hope to keep the spirit of the Keys and, you know, our environment is so important in our hammock down here. And I know you've talked about it before, and I talk about it when we talk in your lives, but I love Florida Bay forever. I think that's such a unique, and if anybody gets to come down here and visit, I always encourage like people at the resort, I'm like, go check that out. Like, look and see what our environment really like, it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
And it's so unique. I mean, I came from the pine woods of Louisiana. Like, I'm pretty amazed, at the environment.
Oh yeah. The ecosystems that are here, you just don't find anywhere else. And I remember the first time I was taken out into Florida Bay, not realizing it's just a shallow grass flat covered in maybe a foot of water. Like, my jaw was probably like a whole time like, oh my God. Like,
and there's so much to see, like manatees
and dolphins and sharks and turtles, and they're just right there. Like, it's not 10, 20 feet deep, and it goes for 25 miles of shallow water.
It's so cool.
Yeah, so that's different. The hammocks, and I think most people want to enjoy the waters, which is what we have the most of. But our land ecosystems and our land environment's really cool, like the hammocks. It's here and it serves a purpose, which is why we need to protect it. It holds the land here. It provides what creatures are living on the land a space to live.
I always think it's funny in the travel groups, they have the Visit the Florida Keys, Ask the Local pages and stuff, and always every summer somebody's like, what is the smell? And I'm like, but no, it's so important. Like, it smells, and it doesn't last long, but it's so important, and it provides such a really cool ecosystem. But so I could talk all day about that.
What is the smell? Because people always ask, what is that?
It is sargassum seaweed.
Local people, we just say that smells like home.
Yeah, that smells like home. You hear about smelling the salt air, but you smell the sargassum.
Yeah.
That's how you know you're getting close when you come off that little tip of mainland Florida and hit the stretch. It just, but it's endearing in its own way.
And it's also the low tides. Like, in those hammock areas, the water on higher tides will come into the hammocks or into the mangroves, and it deposits a lot of things, but it's that sulfur in the mud when it's exposed too. Like all those wetlands, when they're not filled with water, they're exposed to the air, and you smell that.
You smell it, yeah.
Along with all the deposited seaweed that it's left behind.
Absolutely. But I could talk all day about that, but I know we have other stuff to talk about as well.
I mean, what's something when you moved here, even though you didn't really know about the Florida Keys, you came down, and what did you say, a month later you moved?
Yeah, a month later.
What do you feel was different when you did move down than what you were perceiving? Like, what really caught you off guard? Like, what was something surprising when you first moved down that you're like, oh, I had no idea?
I think because I had so little information and understanding of it, I don't think I even had, and it happened so fast, I don't feel like I even had a chance to have a preconceived notion.
I got you.
In that regard, I expected it to be slow. One of the things that I had to get used to is, like, in Louisiana, if you tell somebody you're going to be there at 9 o'clock and you have a phone call at that time, you have X, Y, and Z, nobody's dilly-dallying around because it's really sunny and it's flat, and, it was a really nice morning to take a walk in the park with your coffee, and so that I think I had to get used to, because people are just not as serious, and not in a malicious way, and not in a bad way, but you're just not as serious. It's the island, and I think I thought that was more of a stereotype than actually like that it was.
Truth.
Yeah. Some businesses close when it's really nice and they want to go out on the water and enjoy that, and they'll have a little sign on their door like out fishing, and that's something that you have to get used to. You just kind of have to be like, well, I'll come back again tomorrow.
Yeah, it's not something you can change. Like, it's just it is part of the culture, and like you said, it's not in a malicious way. It's not like they're unprofessional or whatnot. It's just the way of life.
Culture, it's just the way of life.
We all move here to enjoy what's
play in the
here.
Water. Yeah.
So it's kind of cool that we kind of step away from the norm of society down here. Not in every aspect, but we do have our own little...
We do have our own little way of life, for sure.
It does take some adjusting to.
Yes, slowing down.
Patience. I'm always like, patience.
Yes.
Patience. Because I was always taught in the Midwest, on time is 15 minutes early. Now it's like,
On time. We
time
showed
is
up before it ended.
On time. If you're on time, you're early.
Yeah, exactly. Which is honestly also one of the best pieces of advice that I would give to somebody that wanted to open a business down here, because sometimes there are those lacks in communication. Mm-hmm. But calling somebody, and saying, hey, I'll come out, next week, and, let's put this as an appointment, and then we'll call and be like, hey, we're here. They're like, oh, you showed up. And then, that creates a whole different relationship.
Yeah.
And like I said, there have been times where I feel like Daniel and I we hit the ground running so hard that our feet got out from underneath us, and we could have handled situations better and followed up better. And again, we try to take all of those as learning. I've only been a business owner for 4 years. Oh, I probably shouldn't hit my mic. Okay. I've only been a business owner for 4 years, so like I'm still very much learning every day as we grow. And I'm like, okay, this is how we can prevent this next time, and this is how we can keep growing. But persistence is a huge key down here.
Yes. Yeah, and I admire you all just jumping in. Like you said, you had no idea, you had to Google it, but I feel like that's what it takes. Like, you can't wait for the right opportunity. You had the opportunity to take this business, and
if it worked out, it worked out. And if not, we'll cut our losses, pay that debt for the rest of our life, but we'll figure it out. I don't know. And I feel like buying the business in the middle of COVID too is like, wow. What's it going to be like after? Like, what are we going to have to look forward to? What is this going to look like afterwards? Mm-hmm. And it's just like, why not? Like, it can't be any worse than this. So I guess, so you always have that outlook of.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you both took a leap of faith to move here, and you took a leap of faith in the business, and it's all been great.
It's
like this little breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
That you're following.
And it was actually ironic, when the pet hospital called me and they were like, can you, and going back to that, can you come? And so I decided to. My last day was one of the very last days of March. It was whatever, if April 1st was that Monday, whatever the last day, well, not Friday. That was my last day. I get a call that Monday morning, mid-morning. I'm packing up my apartment and I'm getting ready to leave. And one of my coworkers says, they just laid off 75% of the company. And I was like, wow. What? And they were like, yeah, this person got laid off, this person got laid off, this person got let go, this person. I mean, it was just this huge, and we all wondered, but we didn't know that it was an actual like possibility, And so I think about that all the time. Like, if I would have stayed, then I would have lost my job. Like, I would have had nothing to look forward to there. So like, I think I have that kind of notion about life now. It's like, well, I don't know. It'll just work out.
Yeah. When the opportunity presents itself,
go for it. Yeah. And I think also having a strong basis, like my mom has always been a super safe place to land. Like, even now, she texted me the other day and she was like, just as a reminder, if you ever need anything, because the resort I bake at, the owner had a surgery last Monday, so I've been working extra for her. And so Mom was like, you're just working so much, like, are you okay? And I was like, I'm just doing it for a favor. Like, I'm just, and so she's like, just know you can always, if you need anything. So I think having that support system too, of having a safe place to land.
Great to still have that strong connection, even with the distance, between you.
For sure. And my mom had practice because my sister, when she was about my age, when I left Louisiana, she left and went to Pennsylvania. So Mom's been doing the long distance mothering for quite some time, and she's really good at it. So.
Well, and speaking of two jobs, I always tell people it's very common for people to have multiple jobs, whether it's you need it for, income, or you do it because I just feel like there's so many passionate people down here.
For sure.
That like want to be involved in many different revenue streams and just want to pursue it. Especially even with the seasons, I always say we're such a seasonal place down here, so people have multiple jobs because high season, low season.
Exactly.
And what sparked to work at the bakery?
So the resort's name is Bay Harbor and Coconut Bay. You have to stay there to be able to get the scones, but fresh baked scones are baked for guests on property every morning. I've always had a love for baking. I wanted to go to culinary school out of high school. Okay. I went and got Wilson certified through college. I've been a home baker for quite some time. And I actually met the owner, Peg. She and I serve on a nonprofit together that put on Light Up Key Largo. And she bakes the scones. And one day she was like, and she was baking them 7 days a week. And one day she was like, I could just really use some help. And she just mentioned it. And I was like, I love to bake. What are the chances? And she was like, actually, yes, that would be amazing. And so now when I'm baking, she's off and then she'll cover for me. And then and it's really nice. So like, that's one of my second jobs. I have multiple. I also work at the chocolate factory occasionally. Nice. I do dog sitting occasionally still. Okay, and I work weddings. But again, it's just because I like it. Like, I like to, like, when else am I going to get to see, like, this? I went and worked a wedding at Chico a few weeks ago.
Oh, how beautiful.
And it's like, I would normally probably not go on that property because I don't really have a reason to as a local, you know what I mean? But, like, I get to go see all these great places. I get to meet these wonderful people. You know, everybody's in a good mood. Everybody's getting married, you know, and I just think and especially I think I came from a history of the medical field where you don't get to see everybody on their best day, you know, and so getting to see everybody that's just always happy and cheery and coming up to get scones and just makes you feel good. And they're like, where can I have dinner tonight? And, you know, that gives you the opportunity to support another local owner. And that is something that I would tell listeners too. It's like, we are die hard for each other.
We are.
Like, everybody's got everybody's back. We are supporters of locals over everything, you know, and that is something that I think really makes us unique as well. It's just that strong just hold of community here, of business owners that are unapologetic for, like, I don't care how much, you know, and I try to be that way as much as possible. I don't care if I have to pay $6 or $7 extra if I can buy it from a local. Exactly. I know where that's going. You know what I mean? I know, I pay attention whose banners are on the ball field. Yeah. I'm watching to see who's sponsoring if I make a sponsor banner for an event, you know, I'm looking to see who sponsored that event, you know, because I want to put my business back into those people. And I think that's a very like mindset here amongst everyone.
Yeah, it keeps everything in the community, because if you give your business to them, then that money they just made goes back into the community and just keeps it all circulating.
It's a big, great circle, yeah.
Yeah. My last guest brought up a good thing to share, so I thought I'd ask you, what do you feel would be, if somebody's moving here and they're wanting to start a business, or maybe they're already living here and, you know, they're inspired now, like, to start a business, but they're like, I don't know. Well, I don't know what avenue should I go? What do you feel we're missing here in the Keys that would be a really great business for somebody to start?
Ooh. You know, Daniel and I have been trying to open a second business for a couple of years now. So I want to say that.
You don't have to give it away.
But I think there is a surprising, I'm sure Megan will post pictures and you can see a little bit of it up here. And you can see my tattoos. Daniel and I are obviously very into pop culture and toys and, you know, movies and all that kind of stuff. And I feel like there's a really big following for that down here. And I feel like there's not a lot of places to get to experience. You know, like Daniel and I, honestly, I'll just say it. I don't care, because if it happens, I'm happy for the community. If I got to do it, great. If somebody else gets to do it, more power to them. But I just think that there is a really big miss of, like, a retro store. You know, there used to be one. Now, this was before my time up at Mile Marker 106. I don't remember the name of it. Do you? TNT. Okay. I'm not very familiar with it, but there's so many people down here that you'd be surprised that are into, like, pop culture, and I really think some more, like, you know, we go to Orlando to go to vintage toy stores and different places like that.
No, I could totally see that, because I used to, in the Midwest, we had all kinds of, like, you know, secondhand antiques and thrifting stores. Yes. Like, we don't have any of that down here.
And we always say it's probably mostly because it gets washed away every few generations, you know, true. Like that's part of the problem. You know, people's things are sitting in dusty Arkansas attics for 100 years, you know, but down here we don't always have that luxury of longevity.
And we don't have the storage for,
and we don't have the
storage. Yeah.
You know, Daniel had a 2-bedroom, 2-bath home. I had a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home. He sold approximately about 85% of everything he owned. I got rid of or sold everything I owned except what would fit in the back of my Jeep. One of which was that candy machine over there. So that took up the most room. So I brought nothing.
Yeah.
But, you know, we could have, you know, temperature controlled storage for a fraction of the cost of what it costs down here. But again, you're Louisiana, how much land and opportunity do you have down here? That space is sacred, and it, you know, rightfully so does cost more. You know, but that was a huge thing. It's like our guest bedroom is our storage room now, you know?
Yeah, the guest bedroom is multifunctional.
Oh, yes.
Mine's not even a bedroom because we don't even have room for a bed.
No, we don't have a bed either.
I just have an air mattress if somebody's
coming over, they're staying on the air mattress. Exactly. Or I'll go get the twin trundle bed from the downstairs house. Yeah. But
mine's a tackle room, an office, and a studio, and then air mattress if needed.
Oh yeah, ours is all like vintage toys and memorabilia and movies and a little bit of an office and some of my dungeon of crafts that have never resurfaced. You know, I have those spread up here and at home, but you know.
Yeah. So. Now, do you feel like living here has kind of made you a minimalist in some sort?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
By space, yes. Yeah. But somehow we keep figuring out how to like crawl up the walls.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Getting creative.
Getting creative to go higher instead of out, or you know, lengthwise. But I would love to see. I'm just trying to think of like what else. I mean, because we have a great nightlife. You know, we have all of the great breweries here. You know, the Cocoa Palm. What is the name of that? The one that just opened by my house, by the high school.
Crooked Palm?
Crooked Palm. We, you know, we have that. We have the Crib up north. And so I feel like we have a great nightlife opportunity. A lot of places do close earlier, but, you know, you can go down to the Whistle Stop till 3 a.m.
Yeah.
We have a lot of great restaurants. And that's another thing, you know, like chains don't really work here. That we care about eating local, and that is, you know, Mrs. Mack's the old Pizza Hut. You know, and if you look at the windows, you can tell that's what it was. You can tell what
they used to be, yeah.
But selfishly, that's what I would love to have, and to like bring those people together. And I think that's always a really fun opportunity. I didn't realize how many people it was until my UPS guy was like, hey, or, you know, and that's a really fun thing. I feel like our shop is, people come in here and there's so much to look at. So they're just like, it initiates conversation. I love that.
Yeah, that's great. And I feel like there are little tribes of people that have a similar liking, but we don't always know about it.
Exactly.
Especially if, you know, our keys are spread out. Like, there could be people in Key Largo and then people in Marathon that never connect just because of the distance, but they have a similarity of some, like if something was to be built in Key Largo, I feel like the Marathon people would come up, or vice versa, because
I would drive to Marathon.
There'd be a place to come and like socialize and you know, interact with.
Yeah, I mean, I drive to Orlando for it, so like I would drive anywhere, you know. So I think that would be fun.
But yeah, making those connections. But it sounds like, because that was always one thing too, that some people when they move here have a hard time finding a friend group or getting involved in the community. Like, what would you suggest for people having, you know, a tough time feeling like they belong? What do you suggest they get involved in, or, you know?
I am naturally a very outgoing person, so I don't have any trouble inserting myself into any room. And so that has helped me a lot. But getting involved in things like, how I got involved with Light Up Key Largo is a great example. Okay. I was printing their sponsor signs, and the president at the time had come in to pick them up, and I said, hey, you know, if you ever need any volunteers for anything, let me know. And she laughed and she said, be careful what you wish for. And I was on the board the next year, the chair the next year, and I'm still on the board now. And then, you know, so when I got involved with Keys Kids Swim, I just happened to hear Kieran from the county and Doc and all of them talking about they needed volunteers to help that could pass a level 2 background check to help with the kids at the pool. And I was like, I can do that. And, you know, from that I went and got my swim instructor license or certification and all of that. I just feel like, what do you have to lose? Like, nobody here, if you show up and you say, hey, my name's Cari, what are y'all doing? They're going to be like, oh my God, hey, yeah, of course. And there's never been a moment that I felt like I couldn't, again, just insert myself into a situation to be like, because it's not like, I mean, you do have your groups of adults that you see that are out commonly together. But like, I think of all the people that I know, and it's like, I might see them with 20 different people a month. Like, there's so many different social circles, and they all intertwine, but in a good way.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like that's how you meet a lot of people. So me getting involved doing that, my boss at the old pet hospital was a sea turtle walker for Save a Turtle. And that was kind of my first step into the nonprofit down here. I was like, I really want to be involved. I don't really know anybody, but I knew her from work. And so I was like, yeah, I would love to come do this with you. And that kind of opened doors to me meeting other people that were doing that. And they were like, well, we do stuff at the chamber. And I'm like, okay, cool, you know. And so it's just been more of like, I say your best friend and your worst enemy down here is word of mouth. And it depends on how, you know what I mean?
The coconut telegraph can
yes, which I found out is a real thing and I did not know. Like I thought it was just like how you said that. So
yeah. No, but yeah.
That and I tell people all the time, you know, if you insert yourself, they can't forget you. If I keep showing up to these chamber events, they won't forget me. Yeah. If I keep showing up and volunteering, they won't forget me. It helps I'm 6'2" and have purple hair, but you know what I mean? Like, it's hard to forget somebody that keeps showing up. And in turn, especially as a business owner, I don't spend money on marketing. My marketing goes into sponsorships. I don't have a marketing budget, I have a sponsorship budget. And I truly believe that the success of our business is measured by how involved we are and how much we put ourselves out there to like meet people. And one of my friend's dads was this old school guy, and he always told me all money's not good money. And I have found that to be one of the best pieces of advice that I've ever gotten, especially as a business owner, because relationships mean so much down here. They really do. One of the quick quirky stories I like to tell all the time is we had this guy come in. He had a charter business in Maine. He moved down here. He came in and he said, I just need some grommets for my banner. His banner, my Lord, it needed to retire, but he was just really like that banner. And he said, I really need some grommets for my banner. I said, okay. I said, I'll knock them out right now. So I put some new grommets in them. And he said, okay, what do I owe you? And I said, oh, nothing. Don't worry about it. I said, if you ever need anything again, maybe just think about me. And they have turned into some of our best island friends all over those grommets. And we joke about it all the time. And if you have your kids watching, this is my content warning right now to cover their ears. They're really good friends, and they are my Santa and Mrs. for our holiday event.
Aww.
And they're actually doing my, I started a nonprofit, and they're being my Santa and Mrs. for that event as well at Harry Harris. But they're just the nicest people, and like, I always tell people, I'm like, we all want to make a living, but building a community and building those relationships with people is such a vital part of that down here.
So much abundance can come from that.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Like more than you can even imagine.
Yeah, like I could have charged him $10 for those grommets and moved on about my day, and it would have been whatever. But in turn, because of that, you know, and
those little things people remember, and like you said, it seems just so little, but like to somebody else, that was just like, wow.
Yeah.
Like a very generous thing.
Yeah, and you never know who you're going to meet. And I feel like I try to do that in my personal life and my business life, you know, like you just never know who. And I've gotten to do some work for some really cool people. And that's another thing about, you know, having a business down here, and because of so many people being in and out, and we've gotten to do some work for some really cool, like celebrities and different people. And so that's been, I grew up in the middle of the woods in Louisiana, and like the opportunities that I've been given, and I'm not going to say every day is easy, you know, every day is not paradise, but I feel like we get to appreciate it so much more when it is, you know, because at the end of the day, you're like, look where I get to live. I could be living in the middle of the pine forest in Louisiana. Like, this is great, you know. So.
Yeah, and speaking of, you know, people coming and going in all walks of life, like that's something, like you said, you just never know who you're going to meet. And I was talking with a lady here who owns a business in Key Largo, and she said, you know, it's like they can come here and be real. Like anybody can just come here, no matter what's going on in their life or who they are. They can just come here, take off the mask, and just be who they want to be.
And I think that is, I think, why I fit in and why I love this place so much, because I felt like in Louisiana, I was always in this box. I had to be this certain person. Anybody who ends up watching this that is from my hometown and knew me prior to Florida, I would be quite surprising to them, you know, because I'd never, do you think I would have had Star Wars tattoos, you know, in Louisiana? I was sure would not have had short purple hair. I had, you know, And I just felt like I was always in this box. And then I came down here and everybody was just like easygoing. And I feel like I get to be my true weird, you know, like I get to be, and like weird in a good way. Like I get to be my true self. And another reason I don't think I could live anywhere else, because like it's just, there's never any question. Everybody's just like, that's who you are. Love it or leave it, and they're fine with that. And it's just, that's how it is.
No one questions, or, you know, they don't have a stigma for the type of person you need to be down here. Come as you are.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the saying.
Yeah, and it truly is that type of mindset down here.
I mean, you can literally sit at a bar. Everyone's pretty much dressed the same. There's really no dress code anywhere. It's flip-flops, t-shirt, baseball cap.
Yep.
And you could literally be sitting next to a billionaire, and then someone next to you is just sailing the world in their little sailboat, and that's all they got. Like, but they're going to sit down and have a conversation. And two people two souls.
Yeah, and I think that is such like a lesson that the whole world can learn from the Keys. You know what I mean? Like, it truly is a come as you are, and nobody's worried about your tax bracket, and nobody worried about what your background is or what you're going to be doing. It's just like, we're here in the moment. Yeah. We're watching the sunset, and let's enjoy it like as just a really good experience. I think that's really cool.
I love it. So when you're not working on a day off, I know most of us are like, you're very, very busy, but I'm sure you have a day off, and I'm sure like most of us, we just want to like hang on at home. But if a day off, if you were going to go out as a local, like where would you be going? What would you be doing?
Ooh, okay. So as a local, and this is actually something that I really hope a lot of locals hear, because I've heard of more that don't know about this than do. First Sunday in Key West.
Yes.
So many people don't know about it. We have an engineer that works with us, and he's born and raised down here in Marathon. Had no idea they did that.
Really?
And I was like, what? First Sunday in Key West, especially if you're going to have company, you know, that's the weekend you want to get them here, because you can get to go do all the fun touristy stuff. And again, it's locals taking care of locals and making that available for us to be able to do. I love aquarium encounters. That's another really big stop. We have season passes. We love to go.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Largo and Bird Sanctuary is another really great place that we spend a lot of time at. Turtle Hospital, of course. If I'm going, I like to go to Ocean. What is it called? Island Homes. It's the garden place
with that place.
I love to just go walk around and drink coffee and pretend that I wouldn't kill those when I got home. I love to just. I'm like, I could.
It is such a sanctuary.
You know, and so Daniel's like, I'm not taking care of. You can pick one. We can't. I'm not taking, because you know they get home and then I've abandoned them, and he's like, I've got to water the plants. Let's see what else. Pinnicamp. I mean, I always have to mention that. You know, I love Pinnicamp. We're also season or yearly pass holders for our state parks. We're huge advocates of our state parks. And there's a lot of really cool citizen scientist stuff that locals and visitors alike can do.
I had no idea about that, but I had seen that mentioned in one of your bios, and I was like, that's really cool. So, like, what is that all about?
So they do different citizen scientist programs. Currently, right now, they're doing their horseshoe crab study. So we don't know a lot about horseshoe crab activity down here. We don't know much about where they're laying their eggs, where they're moving to throughout the year, if they're coming back to lay, to mate, and to, you know, we have a lot of studies for sea turtles, but we don't have a lot of that knowledge about horseshoe crabs down here. So anyway, we found an area in one of our hammocks that seems to be a hot spot for horseshoe crabs. And so what they'll do is they'll take them and we'll tag them. And so always, you know, if you're watching this, whether you're visiting or thinking about moving, if you ever see a tagged manatee, turtle, horseshoe crab, I'm trying to think of what else they tag. If you see spinning fish, if you see any kind of tag at all on any animal, always report it to FWC. Always give them a call and say, hey, I'm out here at Toilet Bowl Cut. I saw a tagged horseshoe crab. You know, that information is so important so that we can learn more about the species and conserving them here in our environment. But that's a lot of what we're doing now. So we're getting ready to go out during their mating season and tag the horseshoe crabs, so that we can monitor what their mating is like, and so get some more information about them in South Florida.
Awesome.
But they have lots of different ones. You know, they have the aquarium there. All of the park rangers are super great and knowledgeable. But keep an eye out on their Friends of John Pennekamp page, because they'll announce the citizen scientist stuff fairly often, and it's great. Locals can go and volunteer their time to do it. They always have the native plant giveaways, and that's always a lot of fun too. But as a local, I really check out like Facebook events, because I'm trying to see like what the locals have going on. You know, they just had the gingerbread market at the Garden Club this past weekend, and it was also the Alamorada Holiday Festival. That's where I get a lot of I'm trying to find painting classes at the brewery. I'm trying to, you know, go to Murata Way on the third Thursday, you know, those sort of things. So as a local, that's more artsy. I love to go walk down in Key West and go to the, I have embarrassing amounts of the Key West pottery coffee cups and different, I love them.
With their pottery.
They're so pretty. I have I like the
cool.
birds, obviously, like I have the bird stuff, but I have several of their coffee cups, so I like to go down there and look. I like to go hang out and eat a key lime pie at Kermit's and watch, you know, Jimmy Buffett's old recording studio and the Fury boats going in and out. But all that's best done on first Sunday.
Yeah. Well, that's what's fun, is that we can play tourist for the day. Like, I love playing tourist for the day.
Me too. And there's always, I know you were talking about, I don't know if it was on one of your podcasts I was listening to or one of the lives, there is an orchard down in Key West.
Yeah, so in Big Pine there is a exotic fruit grove.
I think I asked you at the time, I want to do that.
Yes.
And I want to know if they have the Cuban or the cotton candy cherries. The owner of the lagoon, I don't know which key that's on, but they grow them there, and I've never tasted a fruit that tasted like that, and I'm so curious.
Candy cherry, or
cotton candy cherry or a Cuban cherry, you know. So they're super good. I've been like asking people that have plants down here. I'm like, do you know anything about this? How can I get one? I need one. They're so good.
Well, I'm intrigued now.
Oh yeah, they're so good. I would love to go there.
Yes, we'll have to do that.
But I think especially, you know, just trying to visit all of our local stuff and all of our nonprofits, because there's so much fun stuff to do. Like the Wild Bird Center is completely free. Like, and you get to go see all kinds of cool stuff. You know. I noticed in one of your questions you had asked, like, what is something that you couldn't live, or something that was different when you moved down here and you couldn't live without, or what you would find strange somewhere else?
Yeah.
And my first instinct was the mile marker system, because I feel like I can't,
bring up.
because I was thinking about it. I was like, what mile marker is that lagoon at? And I think it's in like the 50s or 60s. But I don't think I could live anywhere else that didn't have a mile marker system. I don't know how to get around anymore.
It was so bizarre when I moved down.
I was like, what are you doing?
I think I called up to order a pizza, and I realized they didn't deliver to my island because I was too far away. And I was like, okay, well, can I come pick it up? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, well, where's your location? And they're like, mile marker 71, Oceanside. I was like, what's your address? Mile marker 71, Oceanside. I'm like,
I don't know how to get there. I'm at mile marker 91. Where are you?
Yes. Yeah, like, but finally it just starts clicking, and that's just how.
And then you can't. I'm telling you, you can't get around. Like when we call for clients for like to decide if we're, you know, when we're going to schedule stuff. I'm like, what mile marker are you at? I don't need to know anything. What mile marker are you at? You know.
Yeah. Even like time frame, like because they could be 10 minutes or 10 miles away, but it could take them a lot longer because of what day it is and
what time of day.
In season.
10 minutes in Key Largo is not the same 10 minutes in Alamorada.
Yeah. No, so that's always smart to ask that.
Yes.
Like, how far away where are you?
Where are
what
you?
Mile marker. And then when you go further south, because we live, you know, in the Upper Keys, we call it the Bay side and the Ocean side. And down there, it changes to the Gulf. Yeah. I'm always corrected. It's the Gulf, not the Bay.
Yep, I get in trouble every time I go down there. And I'm like, look.
I'm so used to
I'm sorry, that's the only way I can do it.
Now, going down and up the road, do you say north or south or east or west?
Oh, north and south.
Okay. And I feel like that's an Upper Keys thing, too, because the keys kind of curve.
And then they hook.
Yeah, because when you go further into the lower keys, they're even a marathon, east and west.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, yes.
And I'm like, let me reorient
That makes
myself.
more sense.
Like the episode from SpongeBob, Weast. You know, I'm trying to
where's the sun?
Yeah, like,
look at my sundial out.
Yeah, no, that, because I'm geographically just lost all the time. I cannot dig myself out of a hole. And so I don't think but I don't think I could ever live without that again.
Yeah. No, that's a good thing to bring up, because it is something that you really, mean, I can't think of any other place that...
Like, so our business is at mile marker 103 Bayside. We live at mile marker 91.8 Oceanside. And so we do a lot of, like, our clients that are down in Alamorada and even south, I think maybe you have utilized it. We do a lot of pickup at our house, so they don't have to, because that's another big thing. It's like, Key Largo and Alamorada might as well be different states. Like, you can't, nobody up here wants to go south and nobody south wants to come north. You know, like, you either get used to your 2-lane or your 4-lane, and that's what you're used to.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't realize how long it is. Like, how many, you know, because we start at what, 116, mile marker 116 or 113. I think is where the county line is, somewhere like there. You know, you go all the way to 0, and people are like, "Oh, there's that many miles."
Yeah,
yeah.
Like, that's why.
Yeah, there's so long that I feel like people that are ask the local groups a lot of times will be like, "We're coming to the Keys. What do you recommend?" And we're like, "There's a lot to recommend. Where are you going?"
Yeah, because they don't realize.
Yeah,
I always tell people that, I'm like, when you come down here, the last thing you want to do is spend all your time in the car. So either pick a central location and go out, or spend some time in the upper Keys, the middle Keys, and the lower Keys. But don't stay one place and then like in Key West and want to see the whole Keys, or Key Largo and see the whole Keys.
Well,
like,
and staying in all the different areas of the Keys is so different and unique in their own right. You know what I mean? Like, you don't get the same experience in Key Largo as you do in Alamorada and Key West, and it's not that one is better than the other. It's just two totally different experiences, all different vibes, all different, you know. Key West is a lot more walkable. You know, and that's always something that I ask, okay, are you going to have a car? You know, like, you have to consider those things. Public transportation is not always the easiest thing to get, you know, down here, especially if you're going any kind of distance. Backing up to, I think, what I was surprised about, I would say about how big the Keys are. Like, you know, when I moved down here, I don't think I realized, like, I got off the plane, the first time I ever came to visit, I got off the plane at like midnight, drove, and it was dark.
So you didn't see...
So I didn't see anything. And then the next day, Daniel took me to the mainland. I don't remember why. And we came back, and I was like, this looks nothing like CSI Miami. Like, where are the airboats? Where are the Everglades? And he's like, you're in the Everglades. You know, and so I think that I was surprised. And then, like, we kept going further down, and I was like, it never stops. It never ends. It's like people who steal cars and come down here. And I'm like, where are you going? Except that one guy a couple months ago did go in the ocean.
Into the water.
He was, you know.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And then I also find myself, I have a series going on right now, like, things they don't tell you about when moving to the Florida Keys. And it's like, you literally plan out your route, your driving route. Like, I'm not going to make a left-hand turn if I don't have to.
I have to do if I'm leaving the shop, I have to do everything southbound on the way to work. That's everything.
Okay, so I'm not the only. I think a lot of us are like that.
No, I can only make right turns. I'm so sorry. Like, that's the only way I can go.
That's how I plan my day. I'm like,
And I will plan things on, like, because there are red lights, but they're few and in between. But you best bet that if there is a red light that I can get to through a parking lot or a side street to get back out on Highway 1, if I do have to turn left, I will get there somehow. I need a light.
I am the same.
But I think people get in a hurry down here, and they're like, and I'm like, you're already in paradise. Just slow down and relax and have a good, you know, like, the slower you go, the more you can look.
Right. The more you can become aware of and appreciate and experience, and
but be respectful of it. Stay in the right lane.
And it's less about doing, it's just more about being and feeling.
Yeah.
And just it's.
I'm gonna be honest. One of my favorite things to see down here, and because I laugh at it for a couple of different reasons. One, because I think it is so endearing, and I just, like, love what I know they have to be feeling because of how I felt the first time I was down here, or whenever I was down here on vacation. And then I laugh at it because it's going to really hurt later. But, you know, you have the couples that come down, and the guy's bald. They've rented a convertible. They're doing the whole ride down. They're seeing Fred. They're going down to Key West, and you're like, sir, you're going to be so sunburned later. But that's actually another thing that I'm really surprised about, is how physically close the sun is here.
It's intense.
Yes. And now, like, last week, it was 49 degrees, the real field, and I was like, I don't own clothes for this.
No.
I don't.
I've gotten rid of all those.
I don't have that. But but I laugh at that because I'm like, God, I know they're having a great time. Like, this is either an anniversary trip or a birthday trip, and you know they're down here for a good reason, and then you also kind of laugh because you're like, your head's going to hurt so bad. By the time you get all the way down to Key West, I don't think you know how long you're in for.
Yeah.
And sometimes you'll see them on the 7 Mile Bridge, and they'll be putting the top up.
They quickly realize
this is a little warm.
Yeah. So speaking of like all the different keys having vibes, what do you feel like the Key Largo Upper Keys vibe is?
I feel like our vibe is definitely different than the rest of the Keys, as I feel like there's way bigger, I'm not going to say bigger, maybe a louder working class here. You know, in Islamorada, you think of more, those are the wealthy retirement. You know, you go down to Marathon, again, another big working class. Key West, a big working class. But I just feel like, I don't know, it's hard to describe. I almost feel like we're kind of like the little more like, and maybe because I have this vision because I am very country, as I'm sure all of y'all can hear. I just feel like we're more of the kind of down home up here. Like, this is, you know.
It feels very homey here.
Yeah, like it's home. Like, we're down home. We're Mama's house on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Islamorada is a nice dinner on Friday. Marathon's bad choices on Saturday sometimes. And Key West, Marathon's like the pregame on Saturday to Key West. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Key West is, you know, very much party and very lively, and I feel like up here, you know, this is kind of where you come, and there's families all throughout the Keys. Don't get me wrong. There's couples and families of all ages everywhere throughout the Keys, but I feel like you come up here, and this is where I really, you know, I guess, and again, because I live up here, like,
but you
this just
see
seems,
it. Yeah. And I think, and I was also trying to think of, because I've seen that too, and I think, okay, but why? But I feel like it is a bigger island. Like, it is the biggest island.
Yeah.
So there's just more neighborhoods to build that family community. That's one of the reasons, I think, because the further down, the skinnier the
exactly. You know, we're the widest and the largest island. And I mean, think about, you know, we have Dagny and Pennicamp as our states, but we have like large part. You know, we have Rouse, we have Harry Harris, we have Old Settlers, we have Mike Forrester, we have Friendship. I know I'm probably forgetting some, but we have a lot more of those amenities for those families to utilize because we have the space for it.
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree. And being closer to the mainland, too, for necessities and not that kids need more medical, but it's nicer to be closer to medical with younger children.
And that's something that I talk about, too, you know, like, because Daniel and I had talked about, like, what about living in Key West? And, you know, like, one of the things that I personally think about living in Key West is you're so far from the mainland, which has its perks and its cons. But what is something that is so great, you know, and I tell people that are apprehensive, especially older people, I'm like, but we have the greatest resources down here. You know, we get medvaced at no charge. If we are Monroe County, we get airlifted to the hospital if we need it. And those are things that give me a lot of comfort. You know, we have an electric cooperative versus just, you know, an electric company. And they really take that to heart, and they're great. I have nothing but amazing. I don't know much about Keys Energy, but they have been great as clients for us, but I don't use them. But FKEC are clients, and we get our power from them, and they're amazing. I love the whole staff. They're so on time, and they care. Same with our Aqueduct Authority, which I think is also something that's super unique. Like, I'm not as well traveled as I'd like to be, but I don't know a lot of places that have municipalities that are so ingrained and making sure that they are part of the community and like community driven and like, you know what I mean?
Just, even the infrastructures are just really ingrained in the community.
Oh,
like,
yes.
I'm always so amazed at how they're always on top of working on our electrical grid, working on our water, working on our roads, just keeping everything maintained and running as smoothly as possible.
Yes.
Even through the crazy heat, through, you know, crazy traffic. They're just out there.
They are definitely the unsung heroes.
Yeah.
You know, you see the guy, and that's another thing, you know, watching the guys hang out of the helicopters to check the lines. Oh my gosh.
Where else? I'm like
where? Yeah, like that's the first time I saw it. I was like, there's a man under that helicopter. Oh my gosh. And you know, now we're used to it. You know, like they'll be checking the lines by our house, and we're like,
Even the mosquito helicopters, like that was all new to me. I was like, okay.
Yeah,
right,
like
really,
that's... Yeah, that has all been, and well, I grew up in, we had crop dusters.
Yeah, same.
And so, but like not in the mosquito trucks, like we never had that growing up, you know, so that we hear them because we keep a lot of our windows open in our house. I mean, we have central air and heat, but I like the fresh air. I don't care how hot it is outside. My windows are open. Which I think living down here has made me way more like cold natured as far as like I can withstand a lot more heat than my mom comes down and she's like, can you please close the windows and turn the air on? And we have houses in our neighborhood that were built in the 30s that don't even have air.
Yeah.
Like that's still pretty common, old conch houses not having air conditioning. And especially like sometimes they'll have window units, but one of our neighbors has an old parsonage for a church that was in the community, which is really cool, and they don't have central air and heat, and I mean they're so covered that they do fine, but the houses are so unique down here, and like just what you'll find, you know, we have a 1930s house like I said, but then there's a brand new construction 2017 across the road, but it's built to match the neighborhood, you know, it's really cute. And a lot of people, what I feel like, you know, when you want to move to Florida, Monroe County has, speaking of our municipalities and our government and everything, we have the strictest rules to make sure that our homes are safe to endure things like hurricanes and flooding. You know, and I always say, if you're going to move to Florida and have to pay citizens anyway, you might as well pay them for a house that you know is going to withstand it.
Yeah.
And I'm really proud of all the things, you know, that we do to try to make sure that all of our neighborhoods are safe and continue to grow and build and make those things better.
Yeah, yeah. And I was just talking with because I have a 1960s home, we have the jalousie windows. And I'm like, I know they're not efficient because, you know, they let the cold air out and the heat in, but they just, I don't know, it's just that look of...
Yes, and the sound of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
And the big heavy ropes and weights, which is really cool. Ours have the big like pulley system.
Oh, okay.
We have hurricane windows now, but we still have the innards of them, which are cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And I always call the neighborhoods, and this isn't like I'm not being offensive. I like it. Like I call it the Dr. Seuss neighborhoods, like. Because it feels like sometimes you're walking into a Dr. Seuss book because there's a pink house and an orange house and a blue house, and they're all just cute and kind of kitschy and got their own little styles, but it all flows and it all goes together. And
those are my favorite neighborhoods. The more color houses, the more I'm invested.
Like, where else is that like where you say that's cool? Like, I like that. Like most places, like in the middle of the country, like when all the 200 homes look the same and one person paints their door pink, then
that's not okay. That's not okay.
Now here the whole house can be pink.
Our house is a bright, like, I don't know if you can see it in the camera, kind of right behind Megan's head, that kind of turquoisey color. That's what color our house is. The downstairs front door is a very lemon sunshine yellow. My front door is a very key lime green. The laundry room door, because our laundry's outside underneath the stairs, is sherbet orange, and our back door is a hot Barbie pink.
I love it.
And I have a friend that's a muralist, and so we have the big concrete wall where our steps go up to our house, and so I want her to come in and paint it. But like, you know, like that's encouraged here. You know, like it's, you know, they
stand out, be different.
Yeah, and I love it because, like, I always say I grew up in a very white home. Our walls were white. Our house was white. My mom's going to watch this and say, no, it wasn't. It was gray. It was white, Mom. But a very, very minimalist home. And so, like, now as an adult, I mean, you can see I am obviously not minimalist. Like, very, you know, like, I love color and I love brightness. Every time she comes to our house, she's like, it's so bright. And I'm like, I love it.
Makes you cheery and happy and just, it incorporates the vibe of the place.
Oh yeah, and it fits in so well. It's like, you know, when we go over to the Bahamas and you see the little cottages sitting on the ocean, it's all the rainbow houses. Like that to me is just Caribbean, just magic, you know. And so like the communities that have those here, that have those multicolored homes, I'm like, oh, they look so, I just love the way they look. There's one near coming out of Summerlin Key, I think that's relatively new, and their houses are like super bright.
Yeah.
They're really cute. I love those. Those are so cute.
So what would be, like, if you had to move away, like you said, this is your home, so you're not moving away, but I always ask this, like, if you were to move away, like, what is the one thing that you would really, truly miss the most about living here?
I could never imagine. I think I've said this like 6 times. I'm so sorry. You can take a shot every time I say it. But I just could never imagine a community like this one. Like, I would genuinely miss the people. I would miss, like, we have people that stop by our shop 2 and 3 times a week. They don't have anything on order. They don't want anything. They're coming by to say hey, or to just be like, I was in the neighborhood. How are you? You know, like, I was a PBS kid. I was very much, Mr. Rogers was, I was like, yes, I want to be your neighbor. Like, yes. And again, because of how I grew up, I didn't have neighbors, so I never had that experience growing up. I didn't grow up in a neighborhood. I grew up in the middle of the woods, 20 minutes to the closest town. Nothing. And so I was like, oh my gosh, like, I know like, I can just remember being little and being like, Mr. Rogers is real somewhere. Like, there has to be, like, this has to be what it's really like. And I moved here, and it very much is. Like, you know, like, what was the puppets, where the train went. But anyway, and I always thought that was kind of funny, so I was like, the train, but anyway.
Yeah, you live somewhere where all there was a train.
I know, and so I really feel like I would miss that, because this is the first place that I feel like I felt that. Like, you know, like that heals something in my inner child. Like, you know, this community does, and just
I feel like this place brings out everybody's inner child, which is so, like, you can...
That's a great way to put it, absolutely.
Right? And some people don't like that, but I love it.
I love it.
I'm like, we've pushed our inner child down way too much. Like, we just...
And I feel like you can come here and, like, put on your red cardigan and everybody's like, yeah, instead of, you know, and it's just, I just can't imagine anywhere else being like that. Like, I'm sure there are. But I don't know, I would just miss that a lot, yeah.
Any other advice you give to anyone who's thinking about making a move here?
Do it. If it doesn't work out, like, something else would have also not worked out. You know, like, and I tell everybody, like, just do your research. Know what you're getting into for taxes and for insurance. It's because we do live in a very unique space, and what you are used to paying and the types of insurance you have in Minnesota or Louisiana or Georgia or wherever are going to be very different. Even from North Florida to here are going to be very different. And just do your research and make sure that you take time. One thing that I can highly suggest, out of not personal experience, but we had somebody that we knew of bought a home unsight unseen down here. And it was not a good situation. But you know where they went wrong? They used an out-of-town realtor. Those people are not your boots on the ground. Have somebody come that is local and that can, you know, we used a local realtor, and she actually, when Kay and Daniel went to look at the house, she was like, not this one, I don't think. And, you know, and Kay was like, no, I have a vision. And it's a beautiful home, and we love it so much. It is definitely a labor of love, a continuous labor of love. But have a local realtor. That is probably my biggest advice, and not just because of your position and, like, saying that and like cutting that in, but it's true. You know, that family bought that house sight unseen from a realtor that wasn't down here. It ended up having a lot of damage and a lot of things that were not disclosed to him, but there was nobody here to go and take a look at it, to be your boots on the ground and FaceTime you from there and see what was going on. And so finding a realtor, you know, and there's so many realtors down here, which is a good thing in itself, because you can find somebody that matches your personality. Exactly. It's not like, okay, I'm going to go through this list. It's almost like picking a therapist. You got to find somebody that has a good personality that you get along with, and that has the same vision as you. Yes. Because that experience can make or break a sale and a move as well.
Well, especially because most people are not. They're moving from a totally different location. So a realtor is not just somebody that you're doing a purchase with. It's your advocate for...
They're integrating you into this life.
And I always say I'm more of a lifestylist than I am like a realtor. Like,
that sale doesn't stop when you sell that home.
No,
you know,
and we could be spending time with that person a year in advance before they even make a purchase, just helping them to figure out what area they like, what style of home is going to fit them best.
Like, those are all very important questions.
What's their bigger vision for down the road? You know, that could affect where and what they end up with. And I even tell people too, I said, I know I'm a realtor, but don't let buying a house scare you. If it seems unattainable now, just come and rent and just get, but if your vision and if your dream is to be here now, and maybe you just can't afford it just yet, come down here and rent and get your feet in the community and start doing, then you can gain local knowledge, you can start meeting people who you connect with and get a whole group of advisors on your side, and then, you know, a year or two, however many years it takes, and then you could be a homeowner.
I was very fortunate in that, Daniel, and we already had a home, so we never went through the renting process. But, you know, we have lots of friends that have rented and now own homes, and that's the way to go. And, you know, like, also, too, like, it's a big lifestyle change. Come down here and rent, make sure that, like it. You know, and I have friends that have rented in Key Largo and been like, I now know that I want to buy a home in Islamorada, or I now know I want to buy a home in Layton, because they have experienced these different places. Because it's super different. Like, what do you want out of your lifestyle here? Because somebody that wants a lifestyle of, you know, partying, walking, you know, drinking, they're probably not going to live in Tavernier. There's not a lot to walk, you know. You have Islamorada that has the freebie service, which is amazing, you know. And so those are all different things. Like, think about, like, you know, how you want to spend your weekends and how you want to spend your free time. But I encourage anybody to do it. There's a lot of work down here. There's always an abundance of work. There's whether, especially if you're in the hospitality business, there's never a shortage of employment down here, and there's a lot of really great people to work for. And it's a great place to start and have a family. There's great schools, there's great programs, and, you know, I hope to continue to build on my programs and my nonprofits that I do, and bring advocacy and support to our parks and beaches, and continue to do Light Up. You know, that's a completely free event that we offer, free admission, free food, free Santa. And those are, Keys Kids Swim is another one that is so important. You know, you wouldn't believe how many children have never seen a life jacket. We're getting kindergartners that have never seen a life jacket before. And, you know, on the upwards of like 60 to 70%, Dr. Tana would know more of the numbers than me, live on this island and don't know how to swim. We're surrounded by water, you know. But there's all of these programs that are just great, you know, in different areas that offer what you're looking for your child and your family. And I always say, agree with you, like, come down and rent, you know, do like a 6-month rental and see if you like the area, and then move on to another one and see, like, which schools you like. And if I would have had a school like the schools down here when I was younger, I mean, they, like, their classes go out and snorkel weekly, and they're out sailing. You know, Ocean Studies has a program that they spend a certain amount of time outside as their part of their classroom. You know, Mr. Pays and all of the KLS employees up at Key Largo School, which is a pre-K through 8. I mean, just phenomenal programs for kids. Like, they're getting to learn and experience more than I experienced in my whole childhood. Like, it's so cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what's next? What's your, you know, we're coming to the end of 2024 while we're doing this interview. So where do you see Vital Signs going on all your new foundation? Like, do you want to share any upcoming events for that, or just your vision for your business?
I would like to continue to grow Vital Signs. You know, again, Daniel and I are learning every day that we have this business. Every day that we've had it is the first time that we've had it this day, you know. I you know, so I would like to continue growing our business, extending our services. We're already servicing Ocean Reef to Key West, and we keep our staff really, really busy, and we're proud of that. But we want to continue getting our word out about who we are and what we do. As far as my foundation, if I can plug it, I will.
Yes, please do.
So I was approached probably about a year ago. They needed, so just so if the listeners don't know, you know, they can't spend money on consumables. So, like, if the county Parks and Beaches Department wants to have a camp, they can have the camp, but they can't buy pizza and water to serve because it's considered a consumable. They can't, there's a lot of red tape on what governments can spend their money on. So I saw a need, a mutual kind of meeting of the minds, and I said, well, why don't we get a friends group started, and I have the perfect board, and I don't care what anybody, like, I'm like, these are the perfect people. I love them all. They're so good. But we're actually doing our Deck the Keys contest. So we just got approved by the BOCC in August to work alongside Parks and Beaches. And we just did our first fundraiser, which we raised $600, which is a small step, but I'm super proud. It got our name out there. You can follow us on Facebook. We are the Friends of the Upper Keys, Monroe County Parks and Beaches. Lots of words, but we're doing that fundraiser, and we'll be doing more things coming into the parks now that we can afford insurance. So that's kind of what we're doing the fundraiser for, so we could afford insurance to do advocacy and events in our parks. And like I live near Old Settlers, I would love to get money together and community together to revisit that butterfly garden that's there. Nice. I applied for a grant for something for Key Largo Park recently. So I just, I would love everybody to follow our page, because we'll have events going on. This is ways that you can support your community, and it goes right back into the community. Yeah. We're a volunteer-led 501c3. Nobody gets paid. We take nothing out of it. It all goes straight back into our community and into the people who are invested in it daily, living it and utilizing it.
That's so awesome. I can't wait for it to, I know it's going to grow and flourish, and that's just so amazing.
I'm so excited. We're super new, and we've already made some great steps into making our name known, and I'm very proud of that. And I'm very proud of the group of the board of directors that I have that care so passionately about our community, and making sure that we have things for our kids and families of all ages and abilities to utilize.
So the best way to connect with the foundation is through Facebook?
Yes.
Okay.
I would say the best way to connect with Vital Signs is via Instagram probably, or Facebook. Instagram is @signs_vital. Facebook is just Vital Signs. I don't remember if it's Vital Signs or Vital Signs Key Largo. But we have the big paint splash in VS, so that's how you know who we are. But any projects, we highly encourage you. We can reach out on our website, or you can shoot us over an email at signs@vitalsignskeylargo.net. But
and I'll make sure to put all that in the show notes and in the description for everyone, so they can connect with you easily. And I just thank you so much. This has been
for letting me ramble.
I love it. I love having conversations. Every time I sit down with a guest, I'm like, we could just talk for hours.
I'm telling you, people at the resort, I'll catch myself. I'm like, look, I could stand here and talk forever. On my own accord, on my own time, I have a 9-page geographically organized stop list of things that I recommend for people to do.
I love
and
that.
so they're by mile marker, and they're also by north and south, so they don't have to turn left, and they're all organized like that. And so I'll print them out and take them to the resort sometimes. And I'm like, these are just, and I'll do like experiences and stuff. And I always say, in a previous life, I was a tour guide. I love to talk about our keys. I love to talk about anything that we have going on. And I just couldn't imagine anywhere better to live, or anywhere better to love. So,
well, thank you for being such an amazing advocate for our community, and I really enjoy having you as a connection, and just getting to know you now even more, like on a personal level. And so thank you so much for taking this time.
Thank you. I'm so honored that you asked me to do it.
And I'm excited for everyone to hear your story and hear all about your business, and
just a small town Louisiana girl living
all your amazing projects you got going on. I wish you so much abundance in all of it. I really do.
Thank you so much. You as well. And if you don't take anything else away, take away the fact that if you do decide to move down here, whether it's Megan or any of our other amazing realtors, but probably Megan, have a local advocate for yourself.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Of course. Yeah. All right. Well, it was nice having you here today. Thanks for coming and hanging out in our shop.
Yes.
Y'all are welcome anytime to stop by. We're here Monday through Thursday, 9 to 4:30, Friday, 9 to 3.
All right.
And sometimes Sunday if I'm recording a podcast.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye.